Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the final week of Formula G in Season 3. Our winner has pretty much already been crowned. Boxa has quite a significant lead, but we still have a race to go, which means we've got 5 more drivers to see how they handle Israel, which is our home today. Israel Calamity, a really interesting place. Geography, north and south, pretty well divided, but it can be tricky to figure out where you are in those regions.
Yeah, the main problem there is because, as you said, yes, the north and south is well divided by landscape, the south being pretty much a desert, and the
Mm.
north being still not very wet, but more hilly, mountainous, a bit more green. So you can at least make that split pretty easily. The problem you have there is that, well, the south is almost without any cities and population, so it doesn't really help you much unless you're in Aqaba and maybe with some exceptions of the sort of the middle south where you can still probably tell you're rather south. You're probably always going to be in the more northern, a bit more populated area. And other than that, it does have a very good road numbering system. The problem is you can only really make use of that if you're not in a city because, well, in a city it's rarely ever useful. And well, about half of Israel is cities. It feels like sometimes, with Tel Aviv and the surrounding very big area being very prominent. And in the cities itself, it is oftentimes pretty difficult to even find out which city you're in because there's rarely any really good signs around. And so you kind of have to work with maybe going and having a look to see if you can find the ocean, or maybe having a look to see if you can find any road number actually, or any bigger street that you can maybe see on the map. You do sometimes still get mentions of the cities, but it's kind of similar to what am I thinking about? Maybe even something like Bangladesh,
Mm.
where most of the writing everywhere is in the local language, which in Israel is Hebrew. So you're probably not going to be able to read it unless you can read Hebrew. And then there's just here and there's going to be a sign written in Latin. That's actually helpful to you. I mean, there are, of course, stuff like maybe some advertisements or street names are usually also written both in Hebrew and Latin.
Mm.
But other than that, the city name is sometimes difficult to find.
Yeah. I always love that time when I find a sign in Israel that is in Hebrew and Arabic. And I'm like, great, 2 languages I can't read. Anyways, we'll see how this treats our 5 drivers today. Our lineup is M. Wickholm, M. the Baseman, Calamity, Lunacy, and Pluki in that order. So quite a few of these drivers fighting for a mid-table spot and trying to get their teams into a likewise position. So still quite a bit to play for as we'll jump into round number 1 with M. Wickholm. Or at least in some kind of city to start out.
You say at least, but for me, the thing is usually I'd much prefer being out in the middle of nowhere in Israel,
Mm.
because you kind of assume with a city that even if, as I said before, it takes you quite a while to figure out the city that you're actually in, still most people are probably going to find it. And you can make it more of a difference if you're somewhere out there. And also, it just feels nicer because if you're in the middle of nowhere, you know exactly what you're looking for. You know you're looking for a road that's got some road signs where it tells you the number or maybe the distance to some town. Although I think distances are pretty rare in Israel on signs. Whereas if you're in a city, you're like, anything here could be useful information. I mean, not exactly where Wickholm is right now because there doesn't really look to be a lot of signs. But
Mm.
other than that, it can be a bit more tricky.
Mm. Yeah, well, it is a bit green, and definitely he's climbing the hill here, so probably in the northern half of the country. But beyond
Mm,
that, not a whole lot to. Oh, that's very big clue. Big body of water.
yep. And most importantly, to the east,
Yeah,
um,
not to the west where the ocean is. So
yeah, that
that would
doesn't
be a
leave you
very
with
big clue. Yeah.
with a lot because essentially the Dead Sea doesn't have any big cities on its west
Mm.
coast. well, it doesn't have any on its east coast either, but it doesn't have any big cities in general close to it. And then you're pretty much left with Eilat in the very far south. And as you said, it's pretty hilly here, so
Yep.
not that. And that only leaves you with the Sea of Galilee in the far north of the country.
Yeah. Sort of on the, almost appearing to be on the southwest side with it to our east, because he did appear as he went south, the road looked like it did curve around the bottom of the lake there. So right there, we got a pretty good idea. You know, a city southwest corner of the lake. But you know, pinpointing. Oh boy, that's another matter. Couple major roads here. So he heads north with an overpass. We might hope that overpass is on Google. Some of them are.
Yeah, it could be. Although usually you'll see the overpasses that are on highways that are actually on the map.
Oh, there we go. If you didn't know already, there's a nice sign, Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
See if he knows where that is.
There's thankfully not many seas you have to check.
Not much. There's the other big one. Yeah. Tiberius Inarat, probably a good bet. He's gonna go for Tiberius here. Not a bad guess. Probably the larger of the cities as well. Here we go.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't turn around. There's a green sign right there. If it's not blurred out when he approaches it. Oh, it is. Never mind. Oh, there we go. Got lucky.
The 7717.
Off of the 77.
Yep.
And he's got the neighborhoods as well. That will be quite useful.
Yeah, but he's only got 20 seconds left, and he's traveled for quite a while. I don't remember, but I wouldn't have thought so that he ever returned to the start. So it can be incredibly tricky to keep track of where you went, and it doesn't seem like he's in the right place. And as time runs out,
there we go. He's much further away from the 77. I would give him that much, but 4,881, not bad. Lots of clues, Calamity, pointing to where he might be off the Sea of Galilee, but then those signs at the very end really helped him out. Unfortunately, did not leave him enough time to pinpoint.
Yeah, just in the end there, not quite enough time. But that's, as I said at the beginning, one of the problems where it can take you a long time to figure out which city you're in, and then you're really short on time. And also doesn't help that sometimes what you see on the signs, on the street signs, and what you see in Google Maps doesn't match up like 1-to-1, but it's like slightly spelled differently. We'll get to that more in the sprint race. But yeah, it's still, at least he found the right city. That's something. Because we do have two other drivers here who didn't. Well, one other driver, and there's one other driver in the race who made the same mistake. But Baseman, unfortunately, saw the ocean saw water to the east, and then went with Haifa. Because, well, there is like a slight bay area almost east of Haifa where you can see water to the east, but obviously you would have also seen water to the north and to the west if you'd been in the right area there. So a bit unlucky for him, but that's already probably his race over if we go by how this season is usually gone, where losing the 3,400 points that he did in round one, probably not going to be enough for points. But for the other three of our drivers, for myself, Lunacy, and Pluki, we all found the right city, but Lunacy was the only one who actually managed to pinpoint it exactly.
Oh, so only one person with an ace in that round. A bit tricky, as you mentioned. You would need to find enough clues fast enough to be able to work through that pinpointing, because it wasn't exactly the easiest thing to do. Well, let's see if End Baseman can at least have a better round 2 than he had in round 1 as we get into his race here. And here we go, on a highway, not too far from the intersection. Might not be the worst thing ever.
Yep, and not in the middle of a city.
A visitor center, that would be not too bad.
And the southern exit to Ashkelon, and we're going north on the 4 to Ashdod, which pretty much already gives him where we are,
Yeah,
or should at least.
yeah, and then those other turnoffs be very helpful as well. Seem to look like where they should be. Yeah, not even a minute into this one, and already a lot of nice clues to get us set up.
Yeah, it's looking around a bit. See, maybe judging
Can't even
the
go that
exit
way.
there. Can't go there, but you can still at least see sort of a decently far way into that, so you can judge it and compare it to what you see on the map regarding whether it's the right exit.
Road is in a northeasterly direction. He'll go back up north a bit to just confirm. Yeah, it's got to be long. Yeah, it's got to be long and straight. Seems to fit.
Yeah, also fits much better with the non-existence of population around here.
Yeah, there's a few buildings off that exit, but nothing on the main road, and there is that weird little turn to the north. He will go back. Now, the trick is judging how far north you actually are. We are on the right side. He'll call that good enough, and it'll be really good. 5 meters away and an ace for him. So a great recovery, but on a pretty straightforward round for him in this one, Calamity.
Yeah, exactly. Even going north, I don't think you would have had much problems. You would have still found signs towards Ashkelon and probably the road number as well. So not a lot of points to be lost in that round itself. But a 5k is still always nice to get because not a lot of people got, well, I'd say about half and half is what we have with people getting a 5k or not, because as you said, it's not the easiest to pinpoint because it is a straight road and you basically have the exit on one side, but you have no reference point on the other side. So you don't really know how far it is unless you go really far north. And even then, it's not the easiest. So we saw Lunacy with an ace as well, but me and Pluky dropping a few points, 4 for Pluky, 6 for me. And then M. Wickholm had placed himself at the highway exit that M. the Basement was first looking at. So just a bit too far north and losing another 414 points there.
Yeah, that road direction is very, very important in these situations when you don't have a whole lot else to go off of. We'll jump to you, Calamity. You've been close in 2. Let's see if third time is the charm. And very interesting art in the roundabout to start us off.
Yeah. Tastes are different. And you can already see here, it's a very typical landscape here. Very dry, pretty flat with some mountains in the background. There's actually a sign towards Beersheba and Tel Aviv with the airport on the south.
Yeah, but
And,
they're pretty far away.
Yeah,
yeah, how dry this is, but we have a bit of
the sign towards Beersheba to the north helps because there is nothing between Eilat and Beersheba, except for a couple of very small cities, which this doesn't necessarily look like.
So pretty much going to be on that little gulf there.
Yeah, I do want to confirm if I can find the city name somewhere anyway, because you got 4 minutes, so you might as well before you spend like 2 minutes looking for road names, and then it turns out you were somehow wrong anyway.
Yeah, there is the airport, and if you would stop and look at the actual airport title.
Who needs titles if I got maps?
Yeah, I guess that's true. A map is pretty good, but it would have had that city name on there if you would have scooched just a little bit more. And there is the road names on those road signs. And now it's just, we know we're close to the airport.
I know. You know how airport blind I am.
That's right. Several times you have, like, really?
Yeah, genuinely though, I didn't realize there was an airport there.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't hinder you if
Hmm.
I'm fast enough to try to cut you off. 1 meter away and ace. There we go. Oh, not quite. An ace for you there. So finally, able to pinpoint. But yeah, geography was very helpful. The starting location was on a roundabout with road names, and we were near some quite remarkable landmarks. So put all that together, and we didn't need any time at all, for you at least, to get this one Calamity.
Yeah, some people needed a bit more time, but except for Boca actually, who wait, I'm looking at the wrong round. I think we're round 3.
Mhm.
Except for Wickholm, everyone managed to find it, and Wickholm went for the town of well, I'm not going to pronounce that, but for a town on the Dead Sea, a bit
Mhm.
further north. But everyone else in the whole field managing to get at least in the right city. A couple people 2 kilometers off, but other than that, lots and lots of aces. Very easy to pinpoint as well. So yeah, except for Envicom for our other 4 drivers, 5Ks.
Very nice. Well, Lunacy has had 3 perfect rounds so far. Let's see if he can keep it up in round number 4. And there we go.
And I have played through Israel on my own YouTube series where I play for every country. And
Mm.
upon spawning into this round, I immediately thought of a very specific region that I spent a lot of time in that video, because I just couldn't find any useful signs. And it turns out it is actually that region. So that apparently is the
Mm.
typical look of it. It wasn't the exact same town, but very far in the north. You can see they're very hilly, pretty
Mm.
green, as green as it gets in Israel, at least.
Mm. Yeah, practically mountains, not just hills. And plenty of roundabouts in another Israeli city.
Mm. And the
Mm.
problem you have here is that it's sort of very suburban in a way. It doesn't really look like, right? I'm not sure it is really a suburb, um, but it just has that feel of it where you don't really find many signs. You just go in circles. There's lots of small roads that lead, as you can see here, out into the
Mm.
middle of nowhere. And signs, yeah, just difficult to come by.
Yeah, so the region might be quite easily found, but besides that, not a whole lot to work with.
Yeah, so essentially, again, the thing you want to look for here is probably some way to a bigger road
Mm.
to then find road numbers. Because otherwise, as you can see there with Lunacy, pretty much everything is just in Hebrew, and you're not going to be able to tell much at all. Because even like different to
Go.
some of the other, oh, that's at least sort of good, some of the other countries that have foreign scripts, Israel actually doesn't show them on the map. So you can't even go like compare names in Hebrew to what you've
Mm.
got on the map. But that's exactly what you want to look for and find.
So he is looking in the north, of course. I gotta find these little towns. Oh, police. I don't think that's the name of a city. But these will be. You can figure out where they are. A little bit green, so maybe closer to the coast, he's thinking. I don't think he's actually seen those neighborhoods yet. Was that one right there? I can't. He goes so fast.
No, it's not. It
Yeah,
was
it's not quite spelled
Naharia, and
correctly. Yeah.
yeah. Although maybe,
No, no.
maybe it is. I think it might have been that.
No,
Yeah.
no. Maybe it is, yeah, because he's not in there. He's in between. There is Miona,
Yep.
which is to
And
his
that's the
sort of
sign.
west,
Yeah,
south.
that's the sign pointing in the direction he came from. So
And
you
there
should
we
know
go.
that
There's
that's
8,
yeah.
8:33. So 50 seconds left, but he is moving like the wind. As if he's only got about 5 seconds left. At this pinpoint, okay, there is a roundabout to his east here. sort of northeast, maybe. There we go. That looks like it might fit. But so does that. No, not quite. That one also looks quite nice.
That looks a bit better, yeah.
Yeah.
A bit less in the middle of the city.
But there's a British pool. Let's see if you can find it. He is looking for it. Like, oh.
I have my doubts about his
Yeah.
ability to find that.
Don't even know what that is, but it's not a bad thing to go off of. Ace for him in that one. So there we go. An intersection with lots of signs gives you a something to look for in the northern half of the country, and even a road number with about under a minute left. Not too hard to pinpoint. Just find the right shape intersection in the little town.
Yeah, that was harder than it seemed there, though, because I didn't find it. But yeah, Lunacy with a nice ace there. Still going strong for a perfect score there. As I said, I was about 1 kilometer away. Baseman a bit further, 2 kilometers. Pluki finding it as well. And then Emwickholm 8 kilometers away, so just a bit too far over to the west on the highway. So either he just ran out of time while trying to look for the right place, or he just kind of just clicked somewhere up there in the north. And I actually just looked it up on the round that I had when I played through Israel. I spent 16 minutes there, and it was actually just about 2-3 kilometers further to the south. So it was actually, once I had made my way there, the same city. So that's why it looked so familiar.
There you go. It pays to play in all sorts of things. You never know when you might see something for the second, third, or fourth time. So not too bad. Well, Pluki's had a bit of a 50-50 game on a couple good rounds, but a couple ones he's been a bit off. Let's see how he can finish off things in round number 5. Go into round number 5. And pretty interesting development here.
Yep.
Lots of buildings, tall buildings.
We're another area that is relatively distinct, because it might remind some of you a bit of Jordan, and that's because it is pretty close to Jordan, it being the West Bank area that typically has this kind of very dry but still hilly landscape, and these kind of buildings that all pretty much look a bit like that, which is to say pretty similar, all like sort of white-ish, a few what's actually the word for that? A few stories high.
Multi-storied building.
Yep.
Yeah. Mount Carmel, if that is where it's a pretty famous location. So would not be surprised if some of the drivers just have checked this area out and are familiar with it overall. Seems to fit what he looks for, going off of more of a hunch than any concrete clues.
You might have seen a street name or something. I wasn't 100%
There is a small
paying
street
attention.
name, but
yeah,
a little hard for us to read it. He, of course, is probably playing on a much bigger screen with a bit higher resolution, but half his time gone. Pretty sure he's happy with the location. He's going north, and yep, seems to kind of peter out. The roads turn into lots of dead ends, with a nice little arches pattern to the south.
It's always a bit difficult to know if you can trust buildings as well in countries like these, where it looks like there's a couple of buildings on the western side, or at least there's one right next to where he started, I think. And is that on the map or not? Who knows?
Who knows? He is appearing to be counting now, trying to judge the distance between different bases. How close is he to this intersection? And he's going to check the other way for the other one.
Yeah, it's a method that gets a bit unreliable though as you get into turns, because you know it's really only reliable when you know that the distance between two pictures is about the same between each picture. And once you get into curves, that gets a bit yeah, not as reliable, but it doesn't really look like a road where you can do too much wrong anyway. And
No.
there we go.
And sure enough, not too bad at all. A recognizable location with some road names he was able to use to pinpoint, and then had to do a little bit of guesstimation on the distance between those two intersection curves for that. But yeah, 2 meters away, an ace for him. I'm assume that if you knew some of the kind of geography and architectural clues, pinpoint one was not too difficult. But if you didn't have that, it might have been a bit tricky.
Yeah, I went south and then west, and about, I'm gonna say, a minute away from the start, there was a sign as well that told you you're in Ramallah.
Mm.
So that helped out a lot. But generally, again, quite a few difficulties in pinpointing here because, as you saw, there's not a lot of street names too close by. Pluki did find some to the north, and I found some to the south as well. So they were there, but if it takes you quite a long time to figure out which city you're in, then yeah, obviously you're going to be struggling a bit. It doesn't help that the Mount Carmel road is actually very long and therefore makes pinpointing a bit harder too. I did get very close. I lost 4 points there, 32 meters off. Baseman also losing a couple of points, similarly to Imbricom, with 700 meters and 1.1 kilometers off. And Lunacy, unfortunately, it was going so well.
Yeah.
On track to probably finishing second. And then in the last round, it was 1.8 kilometers off and lost another 193 points.
Yeah, it just takes one round to win it and one round to lose it all, I guess. How did the 5 drivers we saw today finish up in this race?
Yeah, Lunacy still came in 7th, so it wasn't all bad. Still picking up a couple of points there. Pluki, 4th place. Very good from him. He only really dropped a lot of points in round 1, where he dropped 75. If he'd got a perfect score there, then he would have been looking at 2nd place. I finished 11th, because of course I did, with 24.69. And the Basement in 16th down there. Yeah, first round was just too much, but even his points loss in round 4, where he dropped about 250 points, combine that with the 90 points dropped in round 5, would have already been enough to drop him out of the points. So not too annoyed, I guess, by that first round. And Mwicom, unfortunate for him, because he did play a pretty good game for, where he usually is. And just that round 3 where he went for the Dead Sea instead of Eilat, costing him so many points that he ends up in 20th and second last. Without that, he would have, still not gotten any points, but probably looked good for 13th place.
Yep. Yeah, really, in some of these close competitions, like one round is really all it is. If you do well in 4 rounds, great, but you've got to do good in 5 rounds, otherwise you'll be out of the points. Well, if you want to see how everybody did in Israel, as well as how the season finished up in terms of the Driver Championship and the Constructor Challenge, you can check out our show on this channel, and we will see you over there. Take care.
Bye.